So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress beyond your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast with Irvin Scott and Melissa Santos.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to the Grizzly Podcast. My name is Irvin Scott.
And Melissa Santos. What's up, guys?
We've got another edition of the Grizzly Podcast, and we've got a special guest joining us today, American Rugby Union player, athlete / social media influencer. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Naya Tapper.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be participating in you guys' podcast.
Naya, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's exciting because you're doing so much right now. There's a lot of things that we got to talk about, from your athletic career, you basically owning a clothing line now, and the Olympics, and your recent appearance on the Today Show. That was huge, man.
Yeah. A couple of days ago, it was 100 days out from the Olympics happening. So we're definitely super excited for that, just because it was postponed from last year. So we're kind of doing the re-excitement and the re-entry into the Olympic dream all over again. So we had that show the other day, and it was a really early morning for people on the West Coast. I think I had to wake up at 4 a.m. that day. So it just shows you the sacrifice and how invested we are in the Olympics and this journey that we're on.
Wow. So you're definitely dedicated. You're so dedicated, in fact, that, you've got a great athletic background. You've done so much already. So Naya, please tell us about how this whole journey started. Tell us about how you got into rugby and what led to that.
So I actually was in track and field for a long time. As my main sport, I started track and field in 7th grade and kind of did that all throughout high school. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's a very melanated area. I never heard about rugby before, but weirdly, my high school had a rugby team, and a math teacher, a white male math teacher, brought rugby to our school and kind of introduced, quote unquote, Black people to what rugby was. And they asked me to come try out, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that would definitely be something I would be interested in, because growing up, I was very aggressive. I loved playing football. I loved tackling. I just loved the contact aspect of sports, but never really did a sport that required that. So when they brought up the idea of me playing rugby, I definitely was interested. But because I was so invested in track and field back then, and I had a conversation with my track coach back then about if I could actually play on the rugby team or not, he was like, no, too many injuries. And back then, me not knowing any better, I was like, okay, it is what it is. Like, I really only care about track anyway. And then my last year of high school, when I'm getting ready to apply for schools, I decided I kind of just wanted to focus on academics and really enjoy the college life. I didn't really want to play a varsity sport that would require so much of my time and not allow me to really be free, because I felt like I had already did a lot of that in high school, where I missed proms and I missed events because I had track meets. And so I kind of made the decision, I just want to have fun and focus on getting my degree. So I ended up getting into UNC Chapel Hill, Tar Heels, and kind of was just working out, going to Zumba classes, doing my schoolwork, going to parties, living the college life. And I ended up running into a little setup for the club rugby team at the school. And I was like, interesting. It's popping up again in my life. Maybe it's something I should try. It won't be so time demanding because it's just a club sport. It won't really matter how good you are or if we win or lose. It'll just be for the social aspect. So I ended up going and trying out for that. And as you know, for most club teams, as long as you go try out, you're going to make the team. So I ended up making the team, and kind of that's where my journey started, of me learning about what rugby was and actually how far it could take me. playing for that club team, our coach actually was a video analyst for the USA rugby team. So he plugged me into the professional level of getting me out there for camps. And that's kind of where the professional journey started. And my first 2 months of playing rugby in college, I ended up going out to a camp in California where I am right now. And I did pretty well physically, skill wise, not so much, but that's not really what they were looking for because they knew like back then rugby wasn't as big in the US. So you kind of had to find athletes and turn them into rugby players. So I ended up coming out here. They were interested. They offered me a contract, but I declined because I was like still in the mentality of I wanted to just get my degree. I want to have fun. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a professional athlete. That was never something that I was interested in. I just really enjoyed doing sports. Nationally and regionally and statewide recognized. And for me, it was just still fun. It was cool to be really good at something, but still wasn't looking for the professional realm. And then my last semester of college, they invited me to another camp. I went and they offered me a contract, and this time I accepted because I was like, you know, your athletic abilities aren't going to be with you forever, but your degree, as long as you finish that, like, you'll be okay. So you might as well take advantage of what you have right now, and the other things will fall into place. So I ended up moving to California January 2016. And for that last semester, ended up finishing classes online while also training in California full time for my first couple months of being a professional athlete. So that's kind of how I got into the professional realm.
Wow, congratulations. And you know, I read that you actually majored in exercise and sports science with a minor in Spanish. Is that right?
I would have had a minor in Spanish, but the last class that I needed to take, they wouldn't let me take it online. And I was out here in California training full time, and I was only able to take online classes. So unfortunately, I didn't get my minor, but I'm still like doing my Spanish classes on my app.
What's that preparation look like for you, Naya?
We train 4 times a week, and it's kind of like a 9 to 5 type of thing if you think about it. So in a typical day, we'll have maybe 2 field sessions, a weight session, maybe a speed session. So having that 4 times a week is definitely taxing on the body, no matter how young you are. And I've been professional for 5 years now. So in the beginning, like, you know, you went to training, you came home and you just showered and sat on the couch. You didn't stretch. You didn't like do any type of recovery because back then I just didn't feel like I needed to. I just always felt good. You know, you were sore sometimes, but nothing that prohibited you from doing what you needed to do on a daily basis. But now, 5 years later, like, recovery has become one of the most important things to allow me to perform how I need to. So a lot of stretching, a lot of ROM WOD, a lot of rolling out, a lot of just like making sure that you're eating good and staying hydrated, because that plays a big part in how you recover as well. And then also paying a lot of attention to your sleep. Back then, I probably slept like 5 hours and I was like just a jackrabbit ready to go every day. And now it's like, if I don't get 8, I'm a cranky, like, little lady and you don't want to be around me.
Being in the position that you are in, do you feel like you're a role model for others?
I had read a quote a while ago, and it was like, some people choose to be role models and some people are chosen as role models. So I think for me, like, I never wanted to be a role model, you know? I was just trying to come out here, go to the Olympics, and then go back to my regular life and kind of just add that to my resume. But as time went on, as time went on, like, you start realizing that you're influencing people and that you're affecting people in positive ways and that people are looking up to you, whether you think that you deserve that recognition or not. So when that started happening and I started realizing that I could have an impact on other people's lives, specifically in the rugby realm with young girls, then it was like, okay, you know, maybe I do need to clean up my image a little bit and the perception that I put out there as a female Black rugby player. I definitely felt like I was at first chosen to be a role model, and then I eventually accepted that role and kind of played into that, because you can be chosen as a role model, but if you don't accept that, positive things could happen, but also negative things could happen. So for me, it was just like, I am accepting that I am a possible role model, so I'm going to act accordingly.
How's it like mentoring younger females and people that are actually into the same thing you're into, which is rugby and sports?
Yeah. In the beginning, weirdly, they're like so shocked and excited to meet me, as if I was like Beyonce or somebody you should actually be shocked to meet. So that's kind of weird in the beginning, but just from the start, I tried to show them like, I'm just a regular person like you. Like, let's just take the nerves away and just create a comfortable environment where you don't feel intimidated or anything like that. Like, I try to create a friendly environment where they feel comfortable asking for help, asking questions, or just having a simple conversation to make their day better. I think that's really important for me, because a lot of the times we idolize a little too much without really knowing who that person is. So I try to take that aspect out of it so that they can get the reality of it, that, yeah, I may be somebody important in the rugby world, but I am, at the end of the day, a human being just like you. So like, it's just a regular day in the neighborhood, and we can have a great conversation and be authentic and honest with each other, versus trying to put up a facade of a life that probably doesn't really relate to mine. So at first, like, when I thought about how I actually am with them and how like authentic I try to be, I thought about one of my mentors who, before she became my mentor, like, she just from the start was just funny and like blunt and just completely herself, like regardless of who was around, regardless of what environment she was in. So I think that's probably a page that I took out of her book, was no matter where you are, who you're around, like, it's so much easier to just be yourself than to try to pretend to be somebody else or come from somewhere where you're not actually from. So I think when I'm interacting with these younger girls, I, as I've said, try to make myself relatable, in terms of, I probably have come from where you've come. I've probably dealt with a lot of the same difficulties that you have dealt with in life. I'm Black like you. I've probably dealt with discrimination just like you. I'm a female rugby player like you, so I've probably dealt with, discrimination of being a female in a contact sport. There's just so many ways for me to relate to them. So me having just really authentic conversations with them, and starting with the phrase that, hey, like, I'm an open book. Like, anything that you want to know, I will tell you the truth from my personal experience. It isn't anything that I'm making up to, make it sound good. Like, I'm here for you guys, because I would have wanted that same thing growing up. I would have wanted a true depiction of what your life as a female rugby player is really, really like, because it isn't always butterflies and flowers and candy. Like, it's tough. So to have somebody be honest with you, I think that is the most important thing. And that's one of the things I learned from my mentors. When you're talking to somebody, being honest with them, but also being honest with you by being yourself. And that's showing that you're very vulnerable. And when you can be vulnerable, that makes people feel comfortable.
Is there a lot of pressure being a female and a Black rugby player?
I think first, genetic wise, like, I never really had to like try so hard. Athleticism just came naturally to me. So coming into the professional realm, I never really had to work for anything. I didn't really have that mentality. It was always like, okay, I'm already good at this. Oh, I tried this for, oh, I'm already good. So I never really had to work really hard. So I think that was one of the things that I struggled with the most at this level, was having somebody tell you, well, you're actually not as good as you think you are. So I need you to do this, this, and this. And that was probably like my first adversity as an athlete, was you're actually going to have to work in order to be at this level. You're going to have to work to get to that big goal that you want, because that goal doesn't come easily, no matter what type of genetics you have. So I think genetics, in terms of being an African American, specifically in sports where African Americans are amazingly successful, just naturally, I had to learn to motivate myself to work hard. And I still deal with that today, of like having to push myself to do the extra stuff that I didn't have to do back then. So I think that's one of the struggles. And then just the expectations to be successful. You have your family back home who you want to make them proud. You want to make sure that you can be financially stable to support them so that, you know, life can be a lot easier than it may have been in the past. You want to change generational curses and things like that so that in the future, like, you know, things are a lot easier for us. I think that's another struggle, is just the pressure of wanting to be successful for your family and friends to make them proud because you have got this far. So then it's like, okay, like once you reach the Olympics, like you are, you know, how much more proud can you make them? So that's like the pressure for me right now, is like, I'm so close to this one goal. And like, once I reach that, like the amount of pressure that will be released is going to be unimaginable. So just thinking about that is definitely stressful. And I think just the expectations of society, you know, they say Black people always have to work a lot harder than other people, even if they're fighting for the same thing. So I can see that a little bit in our organization. And I don't know, I don't want to say it's like specified or anything, but it's something like intuition, something you notice and you do what you got to do with it. That's what we've been doing for a long time. So
I mentioned earlier that you have a clothing line, Naya on Fiya. Please tell me all about that, because I see you rocking the hoodie. How did this whole thing come about? I know you're always working hard on social media to push the brand. So tell us about how Naya on Fiya got started and where can we find all this lovely merch?
Thank you for bringing that up. So actually, I think maybe it was like 3 years ago, I kind of started getting a good fan and support base on my social media platform. So I was like, you know, a lot of people aren't really in the rugby realm. A lot of people weren't really promoting themselves. And I seen like the money in it. There was one of my great friends on the male side. I think he was really the only one that was really doing it. And I just seen the money and the publicity that came from it and just the positive things that came from it. And I was like, why is everybody not doing this? So I was like, I'm not about to be the one to get left behind, you know? So I'm like, okay, you know, let's put out some shirts and see how it does. So I ended up kind of coming up with Naya on Fiya because my mom's best friend used to call me that when I was younger because they loved to rap and she would just call me Naya on Fiya. So it kind of stuck because I was like, okay, you know, I'm fast on the field and I'm on fire on the field and I'm also on fire off the field. I think I have a great personality and like I'm a hustler. So I was like, it just made sense. So then I had somebody create a graphic, Von Tunes. He's amazing. And I've been working with him since. And the shirt sold out in like 2 days. And obviously like you know, you got your family and your friends all supporting and buying shirts, but it was also like people I didn't know from different countries and stuff. So that just made me really happy and showed me actually like the influence I really did have, which I guess I didn't realize back then. And that's kind of where it started. And it's kind of graduated to now like a new graphic and a lot of different colors and different styles. And it's definitely been a great way to have it influence without actually being there because somebody's wearing your stuff and then other people are seeing it. So it's been amazing. You can get it at nayatapper.com. I have that website where it features my merch and also just information about myself if you wanted to know more about that. And there's a lot of different styles and different colors. So there's definitely something for everybody. It goes from youth sizes all the way to, I think like 4 or 5 XL. So it's really good.
Do you ever get like family members to just kind of hit you up for some free clothing? Let me get a hoodie.
The crazy thing is they don't, but like, when I get like samples and things like that, like they know they don't have to ask. Like I usually look out, but I think an amazing thing that they did was support, you know, like I think all of them bought at least one thing, but whenever I go home and I got extra stuff, like it's all free game for them. They know that. So we got to support each other.
I can see how you look out for them. I want to ask you about your podcast because, you know, I just started my podcast with my girl, Melissa here. How did your podcast come about? It's the Leo's Den. Is that correct?
Yeah. I never really thought I could do podcasts, you know. I was just like, oh, that's not something I could really do. But I am a brand ambassador for Wisp Sports, and it's a platform that gives female athletes a voice. And I had been working with them for a while. They're pretty amazing. And the executive producer reached out to me and was like, hey, like, would you be interested in hosting a podcast, and I was on the fence about it for a while, and then I was like, you know what, why not? Like, why not add something else to my resume? Like, it couldn't hurt, and it's just another way to spread the word. And she asked me who I thought would be a great co-host. And a teammate of mine, Alona Marr, she's a Leo, and I'm a Leo, and the executive producer is a Leo as well. So it's a bunch of like really confident, strong-minded women. And I just thought that she would be perfect for it. She's confident. She's super strong. She's funny. She's amazing. So I was just like, it would be a perfect pair, I think, and a good balance just to talk about rugby on the field and also what rugby is like off the field. Because a lot of people know and can see like the rugby side on the field, but I think they're a lot more interested in the more personal things. So we started that podcast, I want to say in February, maybe March. And we had our sixth episode come out today. And that's the season finale episode for this season. So hopefully we'll be revamping in the next month with another season to come out. So it's been amazing. And the support has been extremely amazing as well.
Nice. That's very exciting. I may sound a little biased here, but I'm also a Leo. So shout out to
nice.
Man. Yeah. My birthday's on August 11th. When's yours?
Mine's August 3rd.
Ah, okay. So you're like a couple days before mine. Where do you see rugby in the next 5 to 10 years? And what do you see yourself doing after playing rugby?
It'll be very similar to how women's soccer is in the US because they're like skillfully amazing. They're winning, they're a winning team. And then you look into who they are as human beings and they're amazing. Like they're having huge influences in so many different avenues in our world. So all of that combined has allowed them to blow up so much in the US, bigger than a lot of the sports in the US, like football and baseball and basketball and stuff. So I think rugby, once we get some things stitched up in terms of getting it on TV to where people can see it, getting more events in the US, getting more leagues in the US, I definitely think it will be very similar to the national women's soccer team, which has just blew up and has been amazing to watch because it's definitely influenced for us of where we can get to. Back then, you really didn't start playing rugby until college. And now, like, we have girls rugby organizations that are starting at like 5 years old, which is amazing because if you look into a lot of the other countries in terms of rugby and why they're so big there, it's because they start so young. So I think now that we're bringing that into it, by the time in 10 years come, like those young girls will be the next girls going into the Olympics, and they'll be so much more skilled than we are right now. Because most of us learned rugby 5 years ago or 3 years ago, some of us like 1 year ago. So it's like, if you can learn those skills 15 years before, like you're going to be so good. So the fact that we're already pretty good now and we're not as skilled as a lot of the other teams, it's very hopeful that we'll be amazing and just like winning everything, hopefully, because everybody loves a winning team. If we can come back with a gold medal, it's definitely going to blow up. So I think that's the most important thing, is showing up when it matters, and specifically at the Olympics, because that's where everybody will be watching, whether they know what rugby is or not. If you see somebody with a gold medal, you're going to want to know, what do you do? How can I support? So I think that's kind of how it'll look then. And then for me, if allowed, I would like to play for probably another 3 years. And then after that, I would love to be involved in like the business side of the rugby organization to kind of push women's rugby to where I know it can go. And I'd love to coach. I'd love to still like do rugby camps. Any way that I can stay involved, I would love to, because rugby has given me so much. So I would love to do anything I can to give back to the organization.
You see yourself playing for at least another 3 years, you said?
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay.
I want to make it to the next Olympics, if just in case, whatever happens with this one.
We'll definitely see you out there. What's the next plan? What's the next project? Any other future goals?
So I got my degree in exercise and sports science because I was looking to go into physical therapy. So I think that would be like my last avenue. Like if I couldn't get into the other avenues that I was interested in, I'd probably go back to PT school so that I can, become a physical therapist. But I would love to maybe coach at the college or professional level. I'd love to work on the business side in the rugby organization, maybe as a women's director for the national team. Anything business, I think I would be amazing at. I have one of my mentors, Phaedra Knight. She was a Hall of Fame rugby player, and she's just doing amazing right now. And it's just in everything. And that's kind of how I want to be. And I'm definitely like looking up to her in terms of like, you know, when I'm done, how can I help you, Phaedra? Like, what can I do with you? Where can I work under you so that I can possibly be where you are in the next 5 years? So I don't know. I also want to do like a little bit of improv, and I love maybe acting. I don't know. It's just so many things. And I'm like, now I feel like I could do anything. So the options are limitless.
I could definitely see you do improv, especially because I see your TikToks all the time.
Yeah.
So you're big on TikTok, and you happen to do a lot of videos, and some of them are really funny. Some of them involve you actually dancing as well. So it seems like you have a lot of fun doing them. Let me ask you about social media, because you're so involved with social media. Would you say social media is very helpful in basically driving your message out to the audience?
100%. Like, everybody's on social media, from 3 years old to 70 years old. Literally everybody is on social media. So it's like, if you want to find a platform to interact with as many people as you can, that's it. Like, I think more people are on social media than there are on TVs. Like, back in the day, it used to be commercials, but now it's social media. Instagram has been really big for me in terms of creating a following and being able to have a very extensive reach to people, not just in the US, but internationally. And I just think everybody should be taking advantage of it. Like, when you know something is working, like, take advantage of that, especially if you're somebody trying to promote yourself. Like, put your pride to the side and take advantage of the things that are sitting right in front of your face. So definitely take advantage of social media. It will help you a ton.
We agree. But you talked about your relationship with your friend, Ilona. You guys obviously have a very close relationship. You've played together, you trained together. Tell me about how that friendship got started.
Like, some people you're just drawn to. And I think Leos are like drawn to Leos because we love being around people who are confident in themselves and like who are authentically themselves. And I can never like fake a friendship or fake a relationship. So when I like feel a positive vibe with somebody, I have no issues with saying that out loud. And she's kind of the same way. Like, she's just real and she's just herself. And I love being around people like that because it's just less stressful and you don't have to force anything. It's just free flowing. So I think that's kind of how we became pretty close and we were able to have the relationship to create a podcast. I think that's kind of where we created our relationship. Very similar people.
That's awesome. Being that you're also a family-oriented person, what does mom got to say about all this? Does she enjoy watching you play, and does she come out to all of your games if she's able to make it, and if they're in town, of course?
Yeah, she's always been a supporter of me no matter what sport I was doing. And specifically with rugby in college, I had a first sight of seeing some of the girls on my team whose parents did not approve. So they kind of had to make the decision of, do I play and like get disowned, or do I not play and, you know, have to deal with parents who are kind of a little too controlling or whatever you want to call it. It's not up for me to judge, but I never had that issue with her. So I was very grateful for that she supported me in whatever I did, even if it was a contact sport that was quote unquote for men. So she was always there in college cheering me on the sideline. And, you know, I was doing good. So no parent's going to have any issue supporting you when you're doing good. But anytime I had hard times, she was always there to be like, you know, everything's not going to be easy. You know, that's how life is. But when you have that support system and somebody's there to motivate you and help you in tough situations that maybe you have never experienced, but they have, that's been really important for me. She's just amazing. She watches all my games online whenever we're international. And if we do have a game in the US, she is usually there. So one of my biggest supporters, if not the biggest supporter, not just in rugby, but in life in general.
If you had any advice for anybody that's just trying to pursue their goal, their dream, being that this is the Grizzly Podcast, we represent people that are always on their hustle. What would you say to them?
I would probably say to trust the idea that everything happens for a reason. Because a lot of the times things will be going great, but there will be times when things go bad. So if you can understand that that bad thing is happening for something greater, then it's a lot less stressful, and you can kind of deal with that situation with a more clear mind. That has been very helpful for me for when things have just went completely left or didn't go how I expected them to go. It's like, okay, it is what it is. How can I deal with the situation now, versus like grieving for months and months and taking forever to get to the solution. So I think that would be my advice, is that everything happens for a reason, good or bad.
And Naya, for anybody tuning in right now and they're either listening to this or they're watching this, if they want to get more information about you, where can they find you?
You can head to my website at nayatapper.com. I have a lot of information on there. I have a YouTube channel, which you can find me at Naya Tapper. I have a LinkedIn at Naya Tapper. I have a Twitter, an Instagram, and a Facebook at Naya Tapper as well. And also you can follow my brand page at _Naya on Fiya _
Naya on Fiya. I love your energy. You're so positive. You're so inspiring. So I just want to say thank you for doing this show with us and just being so helpful to anybody, whether it's the younger girls that you're helping out. It could be your family, Ilona. And that's the reason why I also wanted you to do the show, because I like people like yourself who are just so like-minded. And obviously you're a Leo, so I had to bring you on. Is there something that we can expect to see from you, or talk to me about any events coming up, basically?
Mm-hmm. So we're looking to start our second season of the Leo's Den. So definitely keep an eye out for that, because we're bringing in some new people to our team. So it should definitely get a lot more exciting, not in terms only of just the podcast, but also the graphics that come with it. So stay tuned for that. I'd love to add different things to my merch section. So if you have any suggestions or any preferences, please let me know. I'm open to anything. I am, as I say, I think 98 days out now from the Olympics. So we'll probably definitely have a lot of interviews coming up and a lot of different online events. So definitely stay tuned for that.
So Naya, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We really appreciate you being here, and we wish you the best of luck in everything going on in your career, whether it's your podcast, whether it's your rugby career, and whether it's your IG Reels. But most importantly, we definitely support everything you do.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed you both. You guys were amazing. And I wish you the best in the future of your podcast. And hopefully maybe I can have you guys on mine next time. Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. My name's Naya Tapper with the USA Women's Rugby Team, and you're watching the Grizzly Podcast.
This is the Grizzly Podcast with Irvin Scott and Melissa Santos.
Yo, turn it up.
Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.